UFQ, UFO, what are they? And why do they take so long? What took so long? Am I the only one? Why is it taking you so long to finish your quilts, your unfinished quilt, your UFOs, your unfinished objects? Even if you're not a quilter, you're an artist, you are a painter, you are a crafter. Did you get stuck on something? Well, let's talk about this. So, this is my story. So, this is my quilt. It is for my sister. It was supposed to have a bouquet of flowers, large stem flowers coming up from the bottom. And for some reason, I cut out the applique pieces and laid it out on the quilt, and I just got stuck. One reason was I did not really know how to handle applique on a large scale like that. And so I kept I set it aside. We sit stuff aside because we're going over the process in our mind how to tackle this. Well, this quilt was set aside for 8 years. On the embroidered quilt label, you'll see it'll say 11/14/2013. So as I was going through my unfinished quilts, I saw this one and I said, you know what? All it really needs is to round the corners and to add a nice binding. And I could give this quilt to my sister, and that will free me up. Because remember, all these unfinished quilts, they lay heavy on our shoulders. In our inside of our mind, we're thinking, I have all of these ideas, and we keep starting quilt after quilt, knowing that we need to finish other things. So maybe if we talk about it. So this is a story of why mine was not finished. I found out that if I could, I still want to do the applique flowers, but what I will do is get a small wall hanging and try that on a wall hanging, but go on and finish this quilt. So if you have a technique that's getting you stuck, why not try that on a smaller wall hanging, a little smaller portion, so you can still fulfill that desire to practice that technique, and you can get your confidence in it. But then you can also go ahead and finish that quilt. And most of the time, most of our quilts are just needing binding or to have a quilt label. Maybe one more block needs to be done to have it quilted. Well, those are the things that keep us stuck and keep us piling up our UFQs, unfinished quilts, or our UFOs. So I'm here to encourage you to look at your UFOs, your UFQs, and see what needs to be done, that where you can get that finished, and you'll feel a lot better about it. So I went on and put the binding around this quilt, and just like I wanted, I didn't want the binding to show on the back. And it meshes, the colors looks nice with the front of the quilt. This quilt was made with old bed sheets, and that portion in the middle is how I started the quilt, and I just added section by section by section to this quilt. I was doing quilt as you go before I even knew what quilt as you go was. And here is the label that I put on. So I have a question. Should I change the label or keep the label, or since it's done in 2021? But this is the front of the quilt. I even did some decorative machine stitching on there. I love the binding. All the colors are meshing in with my goal of incorporating the green everywhere. And this is my first, I guess you can call it, two-colored quilt. And I really like it. It's very pleasing to the eye. It's very comfortable. It brightens up the room. And it's not heavily, how do you say that? It's not quilted heavy. So when I get under it, it feels very warm and comfortable, especially with the old used bed sheets that I use for the backing. So Those are some ideas. If you're stuck and there's a technique that's keeping you stuck, set that technique aside. Find out what you need to finish your quilt or your object and get it done. And it's beautiful. I love it. It's so simple. 8 years. So thanks for watching me, guys. We're going to talk about these UFOs and what took so long. So stay tuned for another one coming soon. Bye bye for now.